Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Paige. This is Seeking Alexandria. The voice is still on the mend and I just cannot care because you guys, today is a great day. Today is the day Natasha Denona Sunrise showed up on the doorstep. It is the day that we get to dive in, talk about price, swatches, amount of product, everything that we are wondering about when it comes to this palette. And I have a little bit of a backstory for you and I wanted to get into this. It's going to be just a minute or two. I just want to tell those of you that are on Instagram that follow me, I want to tell you kind of how the entire story with this palette concluded. So as a little bit of context and backstory for those of you that don't follow me over on Instagram, I originally ordered this palette from a company called Feel Unique when they released it 2 weeks ago. Now what ended up happening is I purchased it, I ordered expedited shipping, it was supposed to show up and I was ready for it. I'm like, yeah, get here, and I tracked it and it didn't show up. I contacted Feel Unique several times. I did everything in my power to reach out to not only them but also Natasha Denona, and no one would get back to me. And 5 days after Feel Unique had actually contacted me, lied, and said that somebody at my facility had refused my package, I finally found out that Feel Unique actually launched this palette early. Like, they didn't have the right to it, they weren't supposed to. And so what had happened, for those of you that saw my Instagram story, I was basically on there explaining my frustration, like, why will no one contact me? I called them, I emailed them, I contacted them on Twitter, I DM'd them on Twitter. I did everything I could to try to get this resolved before there were any issues. They finally owned up and told me what really happened, which is that they released this too soon. Obviously they weren't supposed to. Natasha Denona, the company, found out, and I guess there was this huge kerfuffle, and basically they shipped my palette overnight, and before it got to my doorstep they actually told FedEx to turn it around and give it back to them. Now normally I would understand this, and if they had contacted me and said, hey, just so you know, you weren't supposed to get that, we are so sorry, we will issue a refund immediately. If they would have just had any sort of communication with me, I would not have had a problem with it. I mean, I would have been upset, like bummed out, whatever, because that totally screwed up my filming schedule. But the bottom line is that I would have understood, because mistakes happen. And with this whole situation, I felt like they went above and beyond to make sure that they were almost lying to me at every single pass, and to tell me that someone at my business refused my package, and then they told me to do this, and then they told me this. And it's like, you can't sit there and have no communication with me, lie to me, then have no communication with me and expect me to be okay with it. So it really did put a bad taste in my mouth for them as a company. And because of everything that happened and there being no communication, I don't know at this point that I will ever order from them again, because I honestly feel like they don't have any respect for their customers if that's how you treat them. And I know that it wasn't just me, there were several other people out there that had the same experience, and that's just not acceptable. And I say all of this because previously I had talked in a video about Feel Unique and how they were great to work with, because I have ordered from them before, but after this experience I just wanted to clarify, and I always like to give you guys all the information. I don't care if it's a brand, a product, or whatever. I like to tell you guys the benefit of my experience in every way. And that being said, I'm also a little bit frustrated with Natasha Denona when it comes to this palette, because I did reach out to that company as well, asking for any information, or hey, can you tell me why? Hey, can you help me with your retailer? Like, they took my money and now they won't talk to me, and I got nothing from them as well, customer service or otherwise. So all of these things were a little bit frustrating. Now I don't take any of that out on the palette, but just so you guys know how that story ended, it didn't end well, but at least I finally got an answer. Okay, so all of the customer service stuff aside, we are finally going to dive into the palette itself. I am so excited because this palette really sparked an interest in me, mainly because of the way that Natasha Denona is going, and I'm going to dive into that here a little bit. First, I want to get into this palette, show it to you guys, and tell you what we're talking about. So I'm reading all of this off of the Beautylish website. Now this is a $65 palette here, and it says that this is inspired by the warm glow of a morning sunrise. Natasha Denona's Sunrise palette features sunny yellows, crimson corals, earthy browns, and powerful pinks and fuchsias, all made to melt together in perfect harmony. Packed with the highest quality ingredients, they blend seamlessly to achieve vibrant, ultra-pigmented, long-lasting looks. Now, let's go ahead and talk for a second about why this is so significant and why everybody is just like jumping out their chair for it. So, this palette right here is $65. Now, that is obviously still an expensive palette. No one is going to negate that fact. However, if you take a $65 palette and compare it to the normal $129 palette that we're used to seeing from Natasha Denona. This one right here is the Sunset palette, so Sunset, Sunrise. The reason that a lot of people are like, wow, like what are you getting? Why is the price cut in half? It's because the $129 palette, obviously it is this big, and it is actually almost double the amount of product. So the way I'm looking at this, and this is just like my theory, obviously I can't confirm nor deny that this is true because I haven't seen anybody talk about it, but I personally think what Natasha Denona did here is they said, okay, look, we have $129 palettes. These are harder for people to afford. We're not as competitive with all the other brands because let's face it, the average price for a high-end eyeshadow palette is anywhere from $30 to $60. Like it's right in that range, varying based on brand and a bunch of other things. It's right somewhere in that range typically. So they're looking at this and it's like, of course this is going to be harder to sell no matter how amazing the formula is, which it definitely is great. So what I'm thinking happened here is they said, look, $129, maybe this is a little bit too pricey. Maybe we should come up with another option for people that still want our formula, people that still want 15 pans. They love everything about this, but they don't want to fork out $129 and spend their makeup budget for the next 6 months. And that's how I think this little guy was born right here. And I say this because this is $65. Now, 129 divided by 2 is $64.50, so basically $65. So then I thought to myself, okay, it stands to reason that if this is half the amount of money, it would also be half the amount of product. And her larger pan palettes that like this guy right here have 0.08 ounces per pan, and this one right here has 0.045 ounces a piece. So it's actually a little bit more than half the amount of product that these pans have. So now you guys can kind of see where I'm at with this whole thing, right? Like at least for what I'm seeing when I look at this whole situation is $129 palettes, not as many people can afford it. And not only that, I feel like you're catering to a much smaller demographic of people that, yes, makeup artists love them and all of that kind of thing, but the average everyday consumer, quite frankly, just can't go spending $129 per palette every time you want to release one. And so I looked at this and I thought half the price, half the amount of product. It looks to me like we are definitely trying to reach a wider audience by making it more affordable without compromising everything else that people love about Natasha Denona, whether that be the beautiful color story, the richness in pigment, the way that the shimmers blend and buff and go onto the lid and just make everything beautiful. I don't know. We're obviously going to test out all of that, but I definitely feel like this was a situation where marketing or someone somewhere realized that, look, we need to hook people up. We need to do this a little bit better. And now that brings me to my next point, which I know a lot of you are going to want to know. Paige, does it bother you that they cut everything in half, the amount of product in half, any of that? And y'all, I'm actually going to give that a huge resounding no. I do not care. If anything, I think this is fantastic, and I will tell you why. Number one, these original ones, the $129 palette, it comes with 0.08 ounce pans, and yes, that is an amazing, amazing amount of product, and I would never negate that, but it's 0.08 ounces. Number one, I think that the standard amount should be 0.05. I've said this several times on my channel. 0.05 is what I look for. It is the standard to what I judge every single pan by. So yes, is 0.08 great? Sure, but if you guys want to give me an option over here that is just shy of 0.05 by a freckle and it's half the price of that other palette, I am not going to be upset about that, number one. Number two, I feel like a lot of people actually, when it comes to their palettes, whether it's Natasha Denona or any other brand, a lot of people don't use their entire pan. So I feel like you're giving people the color story, you're giving them the quality with a pan size that's still going to be plenty sufficient for most people in their use. All right, guys, it's time for an eye look. Let's go ahead, zoom you guys in, and let's get some of this cuteness on my eyeballs. Oh my god, is this not so just like Alright you guys, so I went ahead and I got my lids all primed, Tarte Shape Tape in Porcelain Beige, and now we're going to go in with this guy right here to start everything off. This is the shade Citrine, and we're going to take this on the Morphe M507 brush. It's a very small blender, and we are going to put this on the inner portion of the eye and blend it out just a little bit, but mainly starting this out into the inner crease. Alright, so I'm hoping you guys can see all the kick I just got in pan from that yellow. It's very, very powdery for some reason, and I feel like her shades are normally powdery, but this just seems excessive. Like it's all over the mirror and it's also in the pan itself. Just for the record, I'm not mad at this because that blended like a dream. It went on, it built up, the color is great, the payoff is amazing, and I don't see any fallout on the face. So I'm good with it. I don't mind having a little bit more kick in pan as long as the shade blends great. It doesn't bother me, but just something to note if this bothers you. For me personally, I'm done. I'm ready to move on. Now from here, I'm ready to kick it up, honey. We're going to go in with the shade Glory, which is this one right here. Beautiful, bright fuchsia purple, and it swatched gorgeously. So I'm going to take this on the Morphe JH31, and I'm going to take that over the inner third of the eye, butt it right up next to that yellow, and blend the two together. And now I'm just blending those two next to each other with that same M507 and a little bit more yellow. And the two are creating like a really nice faded orange. That fuchsia color, it did apply nicely, like the pigment is pretty, but for some reason I feel like it looks a little patchy on the lid, and I don't know why. That doesn't seem right. I'm thinking it might be the brush for this one. I'm gonna try a different brush on the other lid. On the other side, I'm going in with the Wet n Wild P20 brush here, just to see if it applies the same. Now I'm just kind of packing on the color and then lightly blending out the upper edge. And that seems to be working a lot better. Okay, so here's what I think. I love that purple shade. I think it's really pretty, but I think what's happening, and I think the reason it's harder to blend, is because it is so rich in pigment that it's just like going down and it's sticking to my eyelid, and then as I'm trying to blend it out, it's having a little bit of a hard time. I don't think it's like a bad shadow. I just think there's a lot of pigment. That's my guess. Okay, so next up, we're gonna grab the shade Clove, which is this guy right here, and we're gonna pack that on the outer V, and we're gonna use a Morphe Y18 brush. And I'm mainly concerned with packing on this color and then blending it into that other purple just to see how well the two blend together. Wow. Okay, see, that looks really pretty. So maybe what we had there with that middle purple was just an issue with the brush. That's what I think it is, because the shade itself feels beautifully, and even when I swatched it, which it's this shade right here, it's so rich in pigment that I think what happened is the brush that I was blending with is really, really like stipply and hard, and I think that for some reason that brush and the amount of pigment just caused it to really coagulate on my lid and like stick down, because this looks beautiful, so I don't have any issues right now, girl. Okay, so next up, I'm going to go ahead and cut the crease on the lid. Now, to fill that in, I'm going to be using the shade Agate, which is this shade right here. It's a really pretty light gold. And then the shade Poppy, which is this shade over here. And I actually did a little mock-up on my hand. And look at the way those two blend together. Oh my gosh, they look so good. And I think on the lid, up against that dark purple, it's going to look fantastic. So to go in and cut the crease, I'm going to take my Morphe M224 brush and the ABH Eye Primer. And I'm going to cut the crease. I'm going to take it kind of wide on the inner portion of the eye, and then I'm going to go in with Agate for the inner portion, blend that out to the shade Poppy on the outer V, and then just blend and smudge the two in between in the middle. Okay, so that looks gorgeous. First of all, I love it so much. The first thing I do want to mention is that if you're like me and you have super hooded eyes, one of the ways that I kind of cheat my eye look is I take, like I did right here, that dark shimmer, and I did that on a diagonal going off the lid, which helps kind of further elongate and give you that cat eye effect. But then I also took that gold inner shade right there and I pulled it through just the top little line of that cut crease, and what that does is it helps continue the shape and makes your eyes look a little bit more open. It's just something that makes a little difference. Again, it'll depend on how hooded your eyes are. My eyes are very hooded, and for cut creases it can be difficult when you have hooded eyes, but I still do them. I still love them, and I love that gradient. Those two blended together beautifully. Next up, I'm going to take this. It's a little smudger pencil brush. It's actually from It Cosmetics, but there's no name or anything on it. It's from, I believe, the very first kit I ever bought from them. But I'm going to take this on the lower lash line, and I actually want to take the shade Jasper right here. It's a beautiful, beautiful orange. Now, I've talked about this so many times. Orange and purple together is one of my favorite combinations. So I'm going to take that and really deepen it up all along the lower lash line. And then I'm going to go in with the shade Citrine like I did in the first shade through the crease, and I'm going to use that to blend out the bottom side of that orange. And next up, I'm going to go in with this little BH number 16 brush. It's a tiny, tiny little paddle brush, and I'm going to take this in that deepest shade Clove that we worked onto the outer V, and I am going to hit the lower lash line right up next to the lashes and blend it back onto the outer V just to help connect the two pieces and help elongate the eye. All right, I got that eye done, and I freaking love that depth right there and the way that it makes the eye look bigger. It looks longer, wider. It looks more cat-eyed. It looks just like perfect in every freaking way. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to rest my voice for a second, do this eye off of camera. I'm going to come back and give you my final thoughts here when it is all said and done. So hang tight, and I will be right back. Okay, you guys, this is the finished look. What do we think? Personally, I am serving you sunrise realness right now. I love this eye look. I love how everything blended, everything applied so seamlessly, and that lower lash line to me is just like, like it's perfect. I love purple, orange, and yellow. I think they go together beautifully, and I feel like this eye look is such a testament to the colors in here. And you know, this to me, this palette was one of those cases where when you see a palette online and you love the color story, this was like expectation versus reality, but reality was just so good. Getting these colors in my actual hands and being able to swatch them and not just feel the consistency, but also see the vibrancy of them is just like, it's so much better than I could have anticipated. Because I think when you see something like this online, you're like, oh yeah, the colors are great, whatever. But actually getting to see that hot purple fuchsia and see that bright yellow and then see the orange, these colors for me are just so much more beautiful in real life than they are on the internet. I feel like given that we're in 2019 and all the swatches online have been enhanced and cropped and photoshopped and all that stuff, it's pretty rare for me to say that, but these colors, they just, I'm mind blown with how much I love the depth but also the brightness that comes with them. And there's something about these shades specifically that were able to give me both depth and brightness all at once without compromising one or the other and without compromising the formula, which is absolutely amazing. Now, that being said, I did, while I was off camera, go into the Sunset palette and start poking around with the brushes just to see if I could check out the formula of her other palettes versus this one, because I mainly wanted to address like that kick and pan or the little bit of fallout I had right here from that shimmer shade. And what I found while I was poking around in that palette is that yes, it does have the same type of consistency as her $129 palettes. Now, I think what happened when I was using it, I was a little bit shocked when I went into this new palette because I haven't been using her palettes for quite some time because I've been going through reviewing and loving on some other stuff, which is fine, but I did kind of get away from her shadows. And Natasha Denona formula for me is very much so that light dust, light kick and pan, a little bit of fallout, very emollient shimmers that glide and work beautifully, but that's why they glide and work beautifully. So something I did kind of think about while I was off camera, and you guys know I always want to like give you my final thoughts and wrap up a video, and I just didn't think it would be fair to really wrap up this video without going in and poking at the $129 palette just to see really what that consistency was in that formula. Now, that being said, her shades are very emollient. They are very kick-uppy, but they're so easy to work with. I feel like her shadows are the kind of shadows that can make anybody feel good about their level of makeup skill, because the way that they go onto the eye and the way they blend, you don't have to have a ton of tools or a ton of expertise to be able to put them together and have everything blend. And in that respect, they do have to work for you, which is amazing. And by the way, before I wrap up this video, if you're wondering what I have on my lips, I went in with the Sleek Cosmetics Lip Dose Soft Matte LipClick, and this is in the shade Boss Mode 1302. And then over top of that, I took a little bit of the Kylie gloss in OU Fancy just to glossy it up a little bit. So if you were curious, and all the other stuff, by the way, that's on my face will be listed down in the description box as well. But you guys, that is it. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Don't forget to let me know down below, what do you think of this look? What do you think of the palette? Were you curious about it? And while you're down there, leave me all those comments. Don't forget, you can also check me out on Instagram and on Twitter. They are both linked down below. All you have to do is click the hyperlink and then click follow. So it's super fast, and it's the quickest way to get to know me and also see my dogs, because they're on my Insta stories all the time. And if you also haven't done so yet, you can subscribe and turn on your post notifications for this here YouTube channel, because y'all, I upload 5 videos a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They go up bright and early between 6 and 7 a.m. my time here in Northern Michigan, girl. It is bright, it is fun, it is early. We're bringing all the new makeup, the old makeup, makeup we love, makeup we don't love. It doesn't matter. We do it 5 days a week. We hang out, and it is such a fun time. So definitely subscribe if you are new here, and turn on your post notifications if you have not done so yet. But you guys, that is it. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do not forget to have a great day, night, weekend, whatever it is when you're watching this, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye. The level of squeaks that are happening in my voice right now, not acceptable. Am I arguably a little bit too excited to review this palette? Yes. I can see it, I can recognize it, and I don't care. Oh my God, you guys. You guys. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Paige. This is Seeking. This is the loudest semi of life. I feel like I have like that sexy film noir voice, like Phoebe when she's in Friends and she's like, smelly cat, what are they feeding you? But she has like that sexy voice I'm talking about. That's what I've got. Yeah. Oh, my legs. Oh my God. Okay, they're a little bit asleep. Might you be here for a minute or 7, but that's fine. Not a big deal. And now we're gonna go into the, okay. And first, all right, so I went ahead, I primed and prepped my lids with the Tarte Shape Tape in Porcelain Beige. And now we're gonna go into this really beautiful yellow shade right here. The shade, okay. The shade is Citrine. Citrine.